Gucci, when you first hear people say, oh man, it went down from like, oh, Gucci's oh, they released a different Gucci from prison and so on and so forth. What do you think when you first see something where people saying, oh, Gucci Mane is cloned?
It really doesn't surprise me, man, because I always been an enigma.
Right, hello.
And I always been just, like, I always been so many rumors about me. I feel like.
What if the most shocking transformation in hip-hop wasn't a comeback story, but a body swap? That question has haunted fans ever since the day Gucci Mane walked out of an Indiana federal prison in May 2016, looking nothing like the man who went in. The round-faced trap star who once slurred his words through interviews covered in ink and chaos had vanished. In his place stood a man 20 pounds lighter, skin clearer, speaking with measured calm, smiling through new teeth, and performing with a restraint no one had ever seen from him before. Within hours, social media flooded with the same stunned reaction. This wasn't Gucci. This was someone else wearing his name.
The person I used to be, I'm nowhere near that. Like, I'm way more mature. I'm way nicer. I'm just not the same, just mean person that I used to be. I used to be just always like, kind of like pessimistic. You know what I'm saying? Now I ain't pessimistic, now I'm optimistic.
We remember how abrupt it felt. In 2014, Gucci was arrested after an erratic spree that ended with him charging at Atlanta police officers while armed. The mugshot was unmistakable. Puffy eyes, bloated cheeks, the ice cream tattoo glaring from his face like a warning sign. 2 years later, that mark seemed to fade from every new photo. Fans zoomed in, frame by frame, arguing over lighting and makeup. Yet what unsettled many wasn't just the missing tattoo or the perfect abs. It was the demeanor. The man who once shouted Zone 6 like a battle cry now quoted self-help authors and thanked God for peace of mind. Even his voice had shifted in tone, higher, almost careful. Industry insiders who'd known him for years whispered that the difference ran deeper than sobriety. The strangest detail appeared not on stage, but inside his own home. Kiesha Ka'Oir, his longtime partner turned wife, didn't just support his recovery, she took control of it. In multiple interviews, Ka'Oir openly admitted she deletes Gucci's social media apps, changes his passwords, and restricts his phone use whenever she senses an episode coming on. Her reasoning, she said, was simple. She doesn't need the public to know when he's struggling. But that explanation only fueled suspicion. When a spouse controls a public figure's voice, his image, and his access to the outside world, is she protecting him or managing him? We can't ignore that this level of control began immediately after his release, the same period when fans insisted the man himself seemed replaced.
That ain't how I go. Yeah, but I guarantee you, Walker C, Slick Puller, they gonna hit.
Yeah.
ASAP. I ain't know.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Gucci reaching in your pocket now.
Straight
going on over there.
I have just been promoted to, I'm the shooter's boss now. I don't have to do that.
To understand why that theory caught fire, we have to go back to 2013, the Twitter meltdown that torched his career. One September afternoon, Gucci unleashed a barrage of posts attacking nearly everyone in hip-hop. Nicki Minaj, Waka Flocka, Yo Gotti, Birdman, and Drake. He accused collaborators of betrayal and boasted about private encounters that never happened. The rant ended with a public apology and an admission that he was embarrassed and ashamed of his behavior, blaming heavy use of lean and prescription pills. Months later, he was arrested again, this time for possession and threatening behavior, and sentenced to 3 years in prison. By then, he had alienated almost everyone in his circle. Then, without warning, the narrative flipped. When Gucci was released in 2016, he posted photos from his mansion that looked like a fitness ad. Gone were the swollen eyes and sluggish movements. His speech, once thick with Atlanta drawl, now carried a rehearsed crispness. "I'm a new person," he told fans, and the phrase became a headline. Yet one ex-girlfriend, Mac Breezy, pushed back immediately. That wasn't him, she insisted in interviews, saying the man she saw after his release felt like a stranger wearing Gucci's smile. Her words barely made the blogs, but inside Atlanta's studio circles, they stuck.
You just probably want to lay down with the queen and you good.
I wanted to out-hustle everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to take my career to another level. I want to take my finances to another level. I just wanted to step my whole life up. You know what I'm saying? I want to step my look up. I wanted to recreate my record label from ground up because all my artists, they had, did separate deals. I had worked that out for them because I couldn't help.
Right. Damn.
The conversation deepened after his 2025 memoir, Episodes, The Diary of a Recovering Madman. In it, Gucci confirmed he had been diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, conditions that can blur perception and memory. He wrote about hearing voices, feeling watched, and living through psychosis. That confession earned him praise for transparency, yet it also complicated the clone theory. If he truly suffered from disorders that distort identity, then any change in personality could be explained medically, or used as cover for something else. The timing was too neat for some observers to ignore. Around that same period, an unlikely name surfaced, rapper Hopsin. During a chaotic livestream years earlier, Hopsin described being trapped in what he called a Gucci bodysuit, forced by unnamed industry elites under threats to his family. Most dismissed it as performance art. But once Gucci's memoir exposed his own battles with delusion, Hobson's story gained new life. If he was coerced into impersonating Gucci, what happened to the real man during those silent months inside prison walls?
You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be extremely important, and people got to give a damn about you when somebody make up a rumor that you've been cloned.
I'm one of a kind, man.
Yes,
you know
sir.
what I'm saying? I'm like a tourist attraction. I'm like the seventh wonder of the world, so I expect stuff like that.
Man.
The official version paints a clean redemption arc. Gucci's label calls it proof that discipline can rewrite destiny. He quit substances, hired trainers, and married the woman who stood by him. Yet the facts behind the curtain paint a more controlled existence. In 2020, during what Ka'Oir later described as a mental episode, she arranged a staged abduction to force Gucci into hospitalization. "We kidnapped him and took him to the hospital," she said on The Breakfast Club, explaining how 6 bodyguards restrained him in a car while he fought to escape. She meant it as a story of love, but many viewers heard something else, a handler describing a capture. By then, Ka'Oir had assumed full command of his business operations. She managed every brand partnership, approved interviews, and even oversaw the edits of his book. During their joint appearances, Gucci often deferred to her before answering sensitive questions. When asked about his mental health, she jumped in to explain his behavior patterns in clinical detail, his silence, his insomnia, the punctuation in his text messages. Observers noticed that she spoke about him less like a spouse and more like a case study. It didn't help that she described their household as a system where she controls everything at home.
How many welcome, not even a number, but you got to hear welcome home, welcome back, welcome, good to see you again. You know what I'm saying? Because you one of those cats, man, you've always been 100,000 with everybody, with me, whoever it may be, man. And when I got the Will You interview, I was like, hell yeah, I bring Gucci into the neighborhood.
The contrast between her words and his public demeanor only deepened the mystery. On stage, Gucci smiled endlessly, insisting he had found serenity. Offstage, his interview sounded filtered, cautious, almost rehearsed. When journalists pressed him on the clone rumors, he neither confirmed nor denied them. "A clone is like perfection," he once said with a laugh. "If I look like a machine, I'm doing something well." But that non-answer echoed through conspiracy circles. To them, it sounded less like humor and more like confession. Meanwhile, Ye entered the conversation, claiming that the real Gucci Mane had perished behind bars and that Ka'Oir's role was to manage his replacement. Ye had long spoken about cloning within the entertainment world, often linking it to government experimentation. Normally, such statements would vanish into the noise, but his remarks aligned with the precise accusations made by Gucci's exes years earlier. They claimed Ka'Oir restricted his movement, sedated him with prescription substances, and maintained tight financial control through joint accounts and non-disclosure agreements. Each detail added another thread to the theory that this transformation was orchestrated, not earned.
You get what I'm saying? They could control Shaq. They could control Charles Barkley. They could control LeBron James.
Insiders from the Atlanta music scene have quietly confirmed that post-2016, Gucci travels with a new security team loyal to Ka'Oir, not his label. His longtime manager was replaced, his former collaborators cut off, and his closest friends from Brick Squad never reappeared in his videos. Even Drake, who once joked, "That ain't no clone," stopped addressing the rumor altogether. To outsiders, it looked like rebranding. To those inside, it looked like containment. Every transformation needs a witness, but in Gucci's case, the witnesses vanished. The people who knew him before prison either left the industry or refused to speak on record. In their place stood a polished family brand, Kiesha Ka'Oir Cosmetics, a fitness empire, and Gucci's seemingly endless optimism about mental health. Yet for every glowing headline, another inconsistency surfaces. Missing tattoos, shifting facial lines, stories that contradict timelines. The official narrative insists that medication and therapy explain it all, but even medical experts note that schizophrenia doesn't physically re-sculpt a person's face.
Walk in there. But do you feel as if though you're a totally different person?
I do. I feel like I done grown and matured. Like the person I was at 10 years ago, I'm not the same person.
Yeah.
Still, what unsettles us most isn't the science, it's the secrecy. Ka'Oir herself admitted she deletes all digital traces whenever he experiences distress, erasing texts, posts, even public appearances. She claims it's to protect his privacy, but it also means there are no unfiltered records of his real state of mind. No one outside that household can verify when Gucci speaks freely and when he's being monitored. That silence leaves only speculation, and speculation in the entertainment world breeds conspiracy. Gucci's memoir tried to close that chapter by emphasizing self-accountability. He portrayed himself as a man reborn, fighting stigma and promoting therapy for Black men. But behind that noble message lies an unresolved question, the same one that opened this story. If redemption explains everything, why do the people closest to him behave as if they're guarding a secret? Why does a wife need 6 bodyguards to restrain her husband in the name of love? And why does every crisis end with his voice disappearing from the internet? We can follow the official line that he's simply healing, yet the pattern of control, silence, and transformation remains impossible to ignore. And as more insiders hint that the story we've been told is only half of what really happened, we're left wondering what else they're keeping behind closed doors. Because every time Gucci reappears, he looks just a little less like the man we once knew, and a little more like someone trained to convince us he's real.
Right? I ain't never been back to the hospital since 2015, but every time they say I'm crazy, it's just when I'm saying the truth.
West's comments didn't come out of nowhere. When he stepped into the conversation in 2025, accusing the industry of cloning certain artists, he wasn't ranting into the void. He was timing it perfectly. His outburst landed the same week Gucci Mane's memoir dropped, the one where Gucci described hearing voices and believing people were plotting against him. We can't ignore the overlap. When a man like Ye, who's lived his own public unraveling, starts warning about celebrity duplication, and the person he names has openly admitted to psychosis and identity confusion, it stops sounding like internet nonsense. It starts sounding like an alarm bell that someone doesn't want us to hear.
I think he's telling everybody exactly what they don't want to hear.
West's point wasn't subtle. He claimed certain entertainers had been replaced for compliance, molded into controlled versions of their former selves. And when we trace Gucci's transformation, his physical overhaul, the rehearsed calm, the erasure of his digital presence, it fits the pattern perfectly. In one interview, Gucci confessed that during manic spells, he gave away massive amounts of jewelry and cash, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time. Yet Ka'Oir maintained full control over his accounts. She was the one deciding which deals went through, who he could see, what interviews he could do. What looked like a support system began to resemble a containment protocol. We've heard her own words describing the process. "I delete Instagram. I delete everything," she said proudly on The Breakfast Club. "Even if I gotta change his password, I'm changing it." That wasn't a one-off quote. It was a statement of authority. She wasn't just a partner helping a man through mental illness. She was the gatekeeper of his access to the world. Every time he spiraled, his voice disappeared. His pages went dark. His team went silent. It was as if someone pressed pause on his identity until the approved version was ready to speak again.
Because she has made this very clear, she wants her kids to have a relationship with their father. She's not trying to stand in the way of that. But when he says things like this, at some point, she has to be thinking, I don't know if this is good for our kids to be around this.
This system extended beyond social media. Insiders claim that in their Atlanta home, Ka'Oir designed a safe routine meant to prevent stress triggers. No unapproved visitors, no late-night studio sessions, no independent travel. But the more control she gained, the more detached Gucci appeared. Longtime collaborators described his presence as polite but vacant, noting that he rarely laughed the way he once did. One producer told us off the record that it was like working with a man whose memories were downloaded from the cloud. Then came the comment that reignited everything. In 2023, Lil Boosie, a rapper who had spent years alongside Gucci in the studio, gave an interview claiming that the new version of Gucci seemed lost, and even called him by a name no one recognized, Herman. The remark spread fast. Herman wasn't an alias known to fans. Some theorized it was the real identity of a body double, a government experiment name. Others believed it was a slip from someone struggling to keep multiple lives straight. Either way, it forced everyone to revisit the uncomfortable question. Who exactly was walking around as Gucci Mane?
You know what's crazy about this, man, is that it's still Gucci Mane, though. You know what I'm saying? It's not, yeah, and I love it, though. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, I'm always be myself, because, like, you know, when I was doing the things I was doing, that was me. I wasn't putting no cut on it. I would just, you know, if I had a problem with somebody, I would say it. Everything, I was just a walking just spokesman for just being brutally honest.
From a psychological standpoint, the pieces form a haunting puzzle. Schizophrenia can make a person doubt reality. But what happens when the people around that person manipulate the narrative? If Ka'Oir and her circle decided what Gucci saw, what he heard, and when he could speak, then his sense of identity could be shaped entirely by them. That means every statement about recovery, every smile, could be performance under supervision. And that takes the conversation far beyond mental health. It reaches into the machinery of control. Industry veterans have long whispered that cloning talk isn't about literal copies. It's about behavioral replication. They point to how stars emerge from legal turmoil completely reprogrammed. New bodies, new attitudes, new handlers. It's not just Gucci. We've seen it with Ye himself, with Britney Spears, with Amanda Bynes. Each time, there's a sudden disappearance, a long silence, then a rebirth under strict management. Every version looks cleaner, calmer, and more profitable. But behind the smiles, the question remains. Are these people recovering or reconditioned? Gucci's post-2016 trajectory follows that template perfectly. He went from facing federal time to signing book deals, fitness sponsorships, and motivational appearances. He became a symbol of redemption, not rebellion. And yet, the men who built trap music with him, Waka Flocka, Zaytoven, O.J. Da Juiceman, rarely appear in his orbit anymore. They've been replaced by corporate associates, image consultants, and publicists. His world shrank to a curated brand, a family unit run like a corporation, with Ka'Oir as CEO. The financial evidence tells its own story. Public filings show Ka'Oir as majority stakeholder in several ventures tied to the 1017 brand, including fitness and beauty lines. Fans celebrated the couple's empire as a love story, but insiders insist that Gucci's personal assets were quietly funneled into joint accounts managed by her. Whenever he faced an episode, Ka'Oir claimed to lock down spending for his safety. In reality, that control made her the only person who could authorize major transactions. We have to ask ourselves, how much freedom does that leave a man who once bragged about throwing stacks from stage just for fun?
Me and the people who I've worked with, my circle, everything else, I wouldn't want to come to the radio.
And then there's the eerie consistency in how these crises unfold. 2016, release, silence, transformation. 2020, breakdown, forced hospitalization, silence. 2025, memoir launch, renewed control, silence. Each turning point ends with the same pattern, his voice fading just as public curiosity peaks. Even his memoir, co-written by Kathy Iandoli, contains pages deliberately blacked out to symbolize memory loss. It's presented as artistic choice, but could it also be a warning? Perhaps those blank pages mark events he's not allowed to describe. When we compare this to other celebrity rebirths, the parallels are hard to dismiss. Ye spoke openly about handlers assigned to him during his own controversies. Britney's conservatorship functioned under similar legal control, justified as protection. Every time an artist shows volatility, someone steps in claiming to save them, and that savior ends up with total command over their money and image. Gucci's story fits neatly inside that cycle, with one chilling twist. He admitted to hearing voices long before anyone intervened. If those voices told him people were against him, and those same people later took charge of his life, where does the paranoia end and reality begin? We can trace the public narrative, but what about the private one? The studio friends who stopped getting calls, the bodyguards replaced without notice, the family members who no longer post photos. Each disappearance makes the story harder to verify. Every official statement comes through Ka'Oir's team, never directly from Gucci himself. His last solo live stream was years ago. His latest interviews are pre-taped, edited, and filtered through media networks that depend on his cooperation. That's not openness, that's orchestration. Even the so-called proof of authenticity, the gym videos, the smiling family moments, feel oddly rehearsed. Fans have dissected lighting angles, comparing jawlines and tattoos, trying to prove continuity or replacement. Some claim subtle asymmetries between the left and right side of his face. Others insist the voice tone changed after 2019 recordings. It's easy to dismiss as overanalysis, but then again, these are the same digital fingerprints we use in real forensic identification. When the inconsistencies pile high enough, denial starts to sound naive.
You do the music for it to be heard, you want it to be shared, you want people to appreciate it, and at the same time, you want people to be fascinated by you.
Like,
I want people to be fascinated by me.
And you definitely, if the spotlight is turned on me, while they got this light on me, I'm also doing this and I'm working on this. So keep the light on me. I'm ready to go ahead and step into this and shine for it.
Exactly.
Man,
all positive.
How many welcome? Not even a number, but you.
At the same time, we can't forget the tragic human layer. If Gucci truly is battling mental illness, the manipulation of that illness for profit would be even darker than the clone theory itself. Imagine someone convincing a vulnerable mind that his confusion equals healing, that every erased post and hidden breakdown is therapy. That's not treatment, that's control disguised as care. And if Ye was right, if cloning isn't about flesh, but about obedience, then Gucci's transformation might be the industry's most successful experiment yet. All these threads, West's warnings, Ka'Oir's control, Boosie's Herman comment, the blacked out pages, the missing tattoo, form a picture too complex to dismiss as coincidence. Gucci Mane may have written a memoir about recovery, but the real story isn't what he remembers, it's what they made him forget. So now we're left to ask, is Gucci's peace the result of healing or programming? Did we watch a man overcome chaos, or did we watch someone else take his place entirely? The evidence keeps shifting, and the silence from his circle only makes it louder. What do you think? Is the Gucci we see today a reformed survivor, or the industry's most convincing replica? Let us know your thoughts below. And until the next deep dive into fame's strangest mysteries, stay alert, stay curious, and remember, every transformation hides a cost.